Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre Mkt Report for October 31st, 2016. Happy Halloween to everyone. Taking a look here at the ES in the daily time frame right now. Again, we're holding near the lower edge of the range. We've been coiling up significantly over time, and then Friday pre-market, what I mentioned was the bulls are going to try to hold the 2120 to 2122 zone. And early on it became support, but then later we tested down into that area before bouncing and closing a little higher here. So far bulls are defending this area, but as I told our trading room, it wasn't going to be a one test and go. You would probably see price test 2120 over the course of 2 or 3 days before price perhaps squeezes into 45. So there's plenty of time here to see how this thing plays out. Right now you can see pre-market we've come down below it. We rallied back above it after dropping below. That's 2127. And short term, again, there is an opportunity to see another wave higher. I wouldn't really go beyond 2140 to 2145. If there's any failure to hold or close above 2120, that's going to be the major pivot today. A failure to hold that level could open up and run some of the stops, but I wouldn't see price going too far away ahead of the election time. And we also have the Fed funds interest rate later on this week. That's going to be very, very important as well, as all eyes will be on the Fed. Let's take a look here at the intraday time frame. There it is. So on an intraday basis right now, again, here was Friday's action. We were looking for price to basically bounce off of 2122 to 2120. Here's 22, here's 20. So we saw price come right into that zone and rally. Then we saw price come into the zone again and hold, and then fail, and then it attempted to become resistance. New low failure here, so price pushed beyond this high, and then chopped and held, eventually closing above that 22 level. So you can see how that area, that zone, was very important throughout the session. Even though it only held the first couple of times, it still became a very important reference point the rest of the day and still allowed for multiple trade ideas. So right now we're still watching that 2120 level. If price were to come down into that zone, 2120 is still a key level that we've had on the books for a while that bulls still want to control here. And a failure to hold it may run some stops to lower lows for the next time here. So continue to watch that level. I think overall bulls will want to continue to keep it bid, and if so, you could be looking at an ultimate squeeze up to 38 to 40 and perhaps as high as 2145. All right, let's see here. Got intraday. Let's move this one over to a higher time frame. That's crude oil here. And now in crude oil, we've been trading sideways for some time at these highs. However, after we finally failed to get a new high and a continuation through 52s, that rejection was all the market needed, and so far we're already back to 48s. What we mentioned at the very beginning was if there's a rejection at 52, we could see a move back to value. That was the primary position move right there. And then we were looking for signs that this thing may hold or may not. And this day right here, when the stops came out, is when they finally failed to hold, and that implied more weakness. So we're seeing a push downward. 48s are very important here. Any bounce shy of 49 will likely be a selling opportunity for a continuation downward. So swing, there's an opportunity for price to drop into this zone, but if price does drop into that area, I expect bulls to defend and look for another rally within this channel. So right now we have kind of an upward sloping channel underway. Dropping into the bottom of this channel would also offer our target into the value VPOX there, and then that could offer an opportunity to swing this thing right back up to the top of that range. So we'll be looking for more weakness here, swing basis, and perhaps a buying opportunity at some point down the road. On an intraday basis here, let's see, there it is. Here's the intraday. You can see the first thing that pops out is the previous week's close price offered clean and away. Not only that, there was a rejection above it, and then a couple of lower high retests here. That right there is clearly an absorption signature, my favorite pattern. And you look to enter here for a shot at looking at new lows. You get that move already. So this is an important focal point here. If there's any failure to hold below the overnight lows here, And this still counts as overnight lows as RT comes on very soon. If there's any failure to hold here, that could squeeze this thing right back up. Otherwise, we could be looking at the 50% expansion. We're sitting at 25% expansion here for the day. 25% for the week is a little lower, and in addition to the 50%. So this would be the next target zone down, 47.70s, if this thing fails to hold the recent low of 48.20. Okay, let's take a look at gold futures. Here's a look at gold. Here's the higher time frame. This one here, we've been talking about how it's been coiling up. We talked about 1280 being a very important level. And I mentioned to our room that yes, we're trending up right now. We have a little bit of a channel. It's also looking like a little bit of a flag. But really, we had 1260 and 1280. And I said, because of this recent sell-off and how we pushed through 1300, we still have 1200 as support down below. And I mentioned to our room, watch for a potential rejection of 1280s. So if price rallies well above it, as it did, reaching a high in the 1284s, and then it closed back below it. So that big rejection right there says something. And if price rejects in that manner, it could be a precursor to new lows ahead. So right now, I'm watching 1280 very closely. It's already rejected on Friday. If it can't get above there today, or it continues to reject, that might be the ultimate opportunity to look for a swing move down, at least short term. So keep that in mind. All right, let's take a look lastly at the NQ. Here's the NQ. Basically, we had our first major pullback. 1, 2, 3, 4 days. 3 days and a half, that pre-market, and I said this could be an opportunity to buy it. We were looking at 4800 to 4806 half as a buy zone, and that area became a nice zone that was bought several times throughout the day. But that's the level right there, 4800. We're still above it, even though price came below it here and traded a little bit below it. It's now trading well above it, back toward the midpoint of a shorter term key range. So this is or at the top of it. So this is very important short term here, how it's played out. I've mentioned before, all pullbacks in the NQ have been bought, and this has been a 4-day pullback here, and now you're seeing the buying come in. So the next several days could be about quiet buying pressures. This thing kind of goes back up, perhaps as high as 48.80, and maybe even into new highs just beyond these 49.20. So what I mentioned before was if they can hold 4800, look for a push ultimately toward 49.25 new highs. So right now you can see we've gotten a nice little push so far. On an intraday basis here, if we drop this thing down, there it is. Basically 4800 right there. You can see how price dropped into that zone. That's Friday, a nice rally up. But by the end of the day, there was a failure to see new highs, and that led to a decline back down. Eventually, price chopped around 4800, the key level, the key zone, 4800 to 4806, and that is also value, right? And then so right now we're seeing a push up, and it's rallying a little bit. Again, we want to be able to see generally price hold and close above 4800 here. If it can do that, we could be looking at a squeeze to come. Otherwise, failure to hold this level will start to run some downside stops into the next key level below. So that's what we'll be looking for right here as we play out the rest of the week. Everyone have a fantastic rest of the week. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you soon.